The humble milk floats. How's that for some nostalgia?
Do you see what I mean?
This is Wendy Davis, the fastest milkwoman in the West of Buckinghamshire. And for the best part of 100 years, her family have been delivering milk in a fleet of battery-powered floats.
The high average speed of the electric vehicle cuts delivery costs, especially as easy starting and rapid acceleration can be relied on at all times.
So if you go to this house behind you, Hannah,
That one, yeah.
with 2 pints of silver top, and if you're a proper milkman, you'd put them all in one hand.
Oh, OK. Oh, I'm clearly not a proper milkman.
Well done.
Thanks.
You could
My
have a
first
job,
delivery.
but you need to be quicker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Aye, aye, Captain. Wendy and her team deliver over 2 million pints a year to the good people of Prestwood. Each float powered by 48 lead-acid batteries.
Well, they're easy to work on because you can get to everything.
Yeah.
You know, so you just lift the sides up, everything's there.
This is Pete. It's his job to make sure that these floats never run out of juice.
Oh, they're massive.
Yeah, they weigh about half a tonne. Sat there and half a tonne the other side. So both batteries packed together, about a tonne.
They're made from alternating plates of lead and lead oxide immersed in sulfuric acid. Like Volta's battery, a chemical reaction strips electrons from the lead to produce electricity. But unlike Volta's battery, connecting it to a power supply puts the electrons back again, which means the battery can be recharged.
Every night after they go out, they come back, 12-hour charge, ready to go the next day straight away. They'll do about 40 to 50 miles on a full charge.
Not very good escape vehicles.
No, you won't get
if
away.
You're on the run.
you won't be able to use it as a getaway.
No. It's interesting, I think, that electric found a home in milk floats
Yeah.
where it wouldn't work elsewhere.
Well, it's just because they're so basic. There's not a lot that can go wrong with them, really.
This one could possibly do with the liquor paint.
Well...
No offence.
Yeah, they could.
Electric floats like these proved such a success that by the 1950s, Britain had the highest number of electric vehicles anywhere in the world, thanks entirely to our 70,000-strong fleet of milk floats.
Electric had found its niche. It was absolutely perfect for this very, very particular purpose. It found its home. But across everywhere else, petrol was still really dominating. Cheers. I think this is one that's been left out in the sun.
But the magstripe era is coming to an end because of a fundamental flaw in the technology that has cost banks and businesses billions.
I was once branded as Britain's greatest fraudster.
Meet Tony. Tony knows more than most people about the magstripe's weaknesses because he used to exploit them.
I started cloning credit cards when I was 15. I'm now 48, so it was a long time ago. Skimming is where someone takes a credit card and they swipe it through a machine that takes a cloned copy of that credit card. The magstripe is so easy to skim because it's not encrypted and it's just there, open.
This is a card reader, but to people like Tony, it's called a grabber for reasons you can probably guess.
I would take one of these into someone that I had working like in a place like this, and I would ask them to just keep it down the back, away from where the customers are. The card goes behind the counter, they swipe the card, and then they take a clone of the card at the same time. The customer would be none the wiser. That's how simple it is.
Hold it there, Tony. So if skimming magstripes is this easy, when did the banks find out? Let's go back to Sean.
Very early on, people realized that copying the information on the magstripe is not any different than sort of copying one audio cassette to another.
If they knew in the 1970s, how did they possibly end up being popular?
Within the banking industry, there are lots and lots of banks. Lots of them are small. They need essentially the cheapest solution possible. So the magstripe offers that. It's low cost, it's widely available, it's easy to manufacture. It's worse than useless. It's actually really dangerous to adopt this technology.
Banks doing something they knew was risky and dangerous? Doesn't sound like them. Back to Tony.
I had a girl that was working in a delicatessens for me, and on the first Saturday that she used the grabber, she got 300 card numbers, and before you know it, I'm committing countless amounts of fraud.
And how much money were you making?
No comment.
Tony didn't clone the cards himself. He'd leave that for a techie like Sol. Seconds after plugging in the grabber, Sol has got the skimmed card details up on his laptop. The 16-digit card number, the name, expiry date, everything you need in the 90s to make a card payment.
It's all ready to be put onto the cards.
And then, using a card writer, he puts that magstripe data onto a blank card.
All I have to do is press a little button, swipe the card like that, and it's written.
In total, it's taken less than 5 minutes to create this forged bank card. Well, that sounds easy. Where's the catch?
I was eventually caught. I jumped bail and I went on the run and spent the next 6 years of my life running from the police.
Ah, there's the catch. Tony was eventually sentenced to 12 months in prison.
In prison, I reformed. I learned a lot of lessons and came out a different person.
These days, Tony is fighting for the other side, advising businesses on how to avoid being the victim of fraudsters. So that's the story of how the magstripe came to be. But with it being so easy to skim, we had to find a way to make our cards safer. The solution? To embed the card with its very own microchip, also known as chip and pin. Unfortunately, you can't just iron a microchip onto a piece of plastic. Modern bank cards need a slightly more sophisticated assembly. Thames Technology is one of the few companies in the UK producing bank cards from scratch. From this factory, they make almost 8 million of them a year.
Have you got your wallet on you?
No.
This is General Manager Shay Colford.
Have you got your wallet? Can I borrow it? Okay, wait a minute. Right, so to me, the first thing that jumps at me is his rail card, where he looks very lovely. When you look at these things, they're sort of all the same, but are you looking at those and seeing different things to what I'm seeing?
Yeah, so with that particular one, you'll see that's a luminous ink, and you see along the edge, it's an orange core.
Yeah.
The colour of that magstripe is different to the normal one.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how it's evolved over time with different finishes, different materials, and different personalisation methods.
You know, when you're in a restaurant with friends and everyone puts their card in, I imagine that's an exciting
You
moment.
look at every single one of them.
Maybe. Thanks for your wallet, Chris. I'll hold on to that for you. Don't worry about it.
I promise we'll get to chip and pin in a minute, but let's just see how Shay makes bank cards first. The bank card starts its life as simple blank sheets of plastic, which are loaded into a giant printer. Then Forrest, or rather Dorothea's magstripe, is added. The printouts are sandwiched between 2 laminate sheets and popped into an oven.
This is basically a sandwich toaster.
More or less.
What comes out is a solid piece of plastic, which is then punched out into individual bank cards. And now the bit we've all been waiting for, how the chip is installed.
And this is where we place the chip into the card. So we create the pocket where the chip is going to sit. The chip is then glued into the card. We then do various electrical testing to make sure it's live. And then that's a completed card, so take one out.
Look at that. How strange to have something at the end that feels so familiar.
We might think we're familiar with our bank card. But have you ever had a close-up look? I mean, really close. I've got the chip from a bank card under a microscope here. This is the underside of it, the bit that you never see. There's all sorts of detail. There's the little chip in the middle, there's these gold wires holding it in place, and the circuitry around the edge. So why is the chip so much more secure than the more traditional magstripe?
Well, the mag stripe gives you the same number every single time, whereas the chip is much cleverer. It's more like a miniature computer, and it gives you a unique code every time that it's used.
Unlike the mag stripe, the chip doesn't reveal all the data needed to copy the card. The information the chip sends changes every transaction, which makes it far harder to copy.
It's an ingenious device, and there are a few competing claims about who originally came up with the idea for it. But there's one story that I particularly like. It's a story about the eccentric French inventor Roland Moreno, because he said that the idea came to him in a dream about signet rings. Signet rings were a very big hit during the Middle Ages, and the signet, that's the picture in the middle, it would either be a family crest or a monogram or some really intricate picture. Essentially anything that made it really, really hard to copy. So then, if you were ever sending an important document to prove that it came from you, you would use this almost like a signature by pressing it into hot wax.
Legend has it that way back in the 14th century, King Edward III declared that his official documents should be signed using his unique signet seal. Essentially an early version of if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. It's only worth ordering a cheeky tikka-boona if you know that it's going to turn up at the right address. So here is our second piece of tech. The mapping technology that the riders depend on to find their way, using signals from satellites circling the Earth. It's GPS. And these kind folks are going to explain how GPS works.
Prefast 4-5.
Go 4-5.
We're at Diego, string Bravo. I'm SSO 2.
No time tags, no SIF TPs. We're in the window, good 6.
ERDs are good, good 7.
8's great, Diego on the Bravo. You have both comm lines.
Great, no SIFs TPs, no time tags, good 9.
What just happened?
Each position has a specific list of things that they check to make sure that everything is as it should be before we make contact and go live on a satellite.
Given that you're running GPS for the entire world in this room, there's not that many people here. I was sort of expecting more.
Yep, that is a common thing that people are shocked by.
That is Lieutenant Sidney Lamond. And this is the Shriver Space Force Base, where worldwide GPS is controlled. From this building, Sydney's team controls the 31 satellites 12,000 miles above our heads that make up GPS. Sort of like air traffic control on steroids.
Talk me through that then. So on a normal day, what kind of things are you doing in here?
We generate the commands, tell the satellite what to do from here. That information gets sent up to the satellite via a ground antenna. Satellite takes that in, does what it's supposed to, and beams down its new signal to our 6 billion users worldwide.
Okay, sounds like quite a lot for 10 people to do.
They are set in set positions in 6 orbits around the Earth.
Okay, so it's like you have these kind of elliptical bands.
Correct.
That coat around. I'm sort of imagining like taking a watermelon and coating it in elastic
Yes,
bands.
a lot
It's
of
like
elastic bands, correct.
Okay. Of course you've got it as a hologram. Of course you do.
But the satellites don't automatically know their location in orbit around the Earth. Sydney's team have to tell the satellites where they are.
So we tell it where it is so that it can tell you guys where you are on the ground.
But wait, how do you know where it is?
We have a huge algorithm in the background that runs all kinds of data and crunches numbers to essentially compute the GPS constellation.
So essentially in this room then, all these people every day, you're telling the satellites where they are so they can tell everyone else in the world where they are.
That is correct. That's a very good explanation.
Well, it's a system I'm happy to use. Thank you for all the years when I haven't got lost. Because all sorts of companies were completely obsessed with miniaturization, making things as small and portable as possible. The only problem was that if you wanted something that lasted for any reasonable amount of time, it would look something like this. I mean, this phone is about 80% battery. So camcorders of around that era had batteries that would only last about half an hour or an hour before they were cut out, which is not ideal if you want to capture life's most important moments.
The public appetite for electronics that could be both small and long-lasting drove an intense period of battery R&D. And this was when scientists turned to the volatile metal called lithium.
The idea of a lithium battery had been around for a really long time, since the 1950s. But as a material, lithium has that habit of exploding, which doesn't make it ideal to put in products that you're going to sell to the public.
That changed in the mid-1980s. A Japanese chemist called Akira Yoshino found a way to stop lithium self-destructing by introducing a special carbon-based material. It held the volatile lithium ions in place, stopping them from running amok and making a battery far less likely to go bang.
In 1991, the first lithium-ion battery was released into the wild in the form of this right here. A little bit of history. This is the Sony CCD TR1. And it's a camcorder from 1991. Hi. This is just all that people did, was turn around to people's faces and zoom in and out on them. Simpler times. And thus, a revolution in the lithium-ion battery was born.
With the new batteries, camcorders could now last for several hours before needing a recharge. The lithium-ion battery quickly found its way into everything that needed to be picked up and unplugged, reducing its size or massively extending its life.
After 3 decades of development, the average lithium-ion battery in your laptop can safely store as much energy as a hand grenade. Emphasis on the word safe.
Let me give you a nice wave of nostalgia by talking about Teletex.
Of course, I am far too young to remember Teletext properly, but you might. And you could use it to get information from your TV, things like the weather or the news. There was another version called Videotex where it wasn't just about broadcasting information. You could effectively talk back to it using your remote. Let me show you how it might have worked. So, OK, if I go to the shopping page here... Oh, here we go. Look at this. Ooh. It's like going back in time. Right, so let's go for Greg's number 1. There we go. Feeling quite peckish. I think I'm going to try and find the sausage rolls. So let's go for 02 for hot food. 02. There we go. Hot food. I mean, this is a retro delight, isn't it? OK, we have got sausage roll right at the top, 01. Oh, OK, so it's got it. I've got like no little running receipt going on. 1 there, and it's 20p. Oh, if only. If only that bit was still true. Confirm order, number 1. There we go. Thank you for shopping.
Michael Aldrich's kind of special insight was being able to see that things that were being used for delivering information on the television could be used to send requests for other information.
That is Asha Rospigliosi, an e-commerce expert who worked with Michael back in the 1980s.
Where did the inspiration for this come from? I mean, that's quite a leap, isn't it?
As he told it to me, he was out walking his dog in the Sussex countryside with his wife, and she said, we need to allow time to go to the supermarket, pick up the weekend shop. And he said, that's a bit of a bore, wouldn't it be nice if? And at the same time, there was work going on in Newcastle about the impact of out-of-town superstores and how that was disadvantaging some people. TV was connected by a telephone line to the computer in the supermarket.
It was two-way.
It was two-way.
Not just displaying, but receiving too.
Yes, and that was the vital difference that let people place orders for their food.
It was a very clever idea, but the order screen was slow and it was fiddly to use.
These 2 panes of glass, one over here, one over there. They look quite similar, don't they? But watch what happens after I very slowly get these gloves on. Ooh, this is ordinary glass. It's very, very brittle. Compare that now to this glass over here. This is toughened glass. It's barely left a mark on it. If I really gave it some welly, I could smash it. But there's definitely a difference between these 2 panes of glass.
The secret is chemistry.
But first, I just need to undo this. Ooh. I'm going to go into a little bit about the molecular structure of glass. But just bear with me because I promise this is going to be worth it. Glass is actually a super cooled liquid. So you can think of it more like some strings of beads of atoms rather than like a really nice regular structure. And glass, it's made from sand, limestone and sodium.
Charged particles, or ions, of the sodium will sit inside this structure.
Just on the surface like that. Right, that's normal glass. Now, when it comes to toughened glass, you have the same sort of strings that kind of go like this, but instead, they deliberately remove the sodium ions on the surface and replace them instead with potassium. I don't know if you remember any of your chemistry from school, but potassium is a much bigger ion than sodium. And so, its presence in this structure means that those strings of beads fill up the spaces between these strings, are like squished out towards the edges. And it means that if ever something comes along and cracks down here, the potassium helps to just keep everything neatly knitted together.
With more delicate electronics than you can shake a USB stick at. Fitness trackers have to withstand all of the knocks and the bumps that we invariably put them through.
So I heard this great story about a pig that was wearing a fitness tracker, monitoring its step count and proving that it was free range. Except unfortunately one day, the fitness tracker fell off, pig eats it, it got damaged in the digestive tract, ended up causing a fire when it came out the other end. Now that is quite an extreme thing for a fitness tracker to have to go through. But when you're building this stuff, you certainly don't want to create one that's just going to fall apart at the slightest knock or scrape.
And that is why those clever fitness tracker designers have added a component that makes them robust enough to withstand almost anything that we throw at them, the toughened glass screen. But just how strong is the glass? Well, this is the place that the tech companies come to find out.
If you really want to test something, give it to a 4-year-old.
That is Terry Leo from Quanta Laboratories. His job is to try and break stuff, testing out products for most of the major companies in Silicon Valley.
Do you ever just want to, like, smash stuff?
That's what we do.
I mean, I know.
Terry puts products through their paces to make sure that they can withstand whatever we do to them. Although, okay, maybe not the pig thing.
This is what we call the guided drop. And basically, it drops a unit at any direction and point. It basically holds on to it, and at the last foot, it lets it go and drops it and hits the perfect flat drop.
To test just how much stress the glass can withstand, Terry has a machine that will drop the device from various heights. We're starting at 8 feet.
Oh my gosh!
You want to go higher? Nothing. 15 feet.
Wow.
The glass is proving tricky to damage by dropping. But how about resisting scratches from keys in our pockets, for example? Well, Terry has a whole other machine for testing just that.
This test right now, we can add different weights on there, how much weight to put on it, how much force and pressure to put on it.
So there's a certain amount of weight that presumably the manufacturers say that's okay?
Yeah, so you can see no real scratch marks. Nothing. Just going back and forth. Can you put it in your pocket? Of course. Would I recommend that? Probably not. I wouldn't put my, watch in my pocket if I know I had keys there.
I had one of these smartwatches, and my daughter was having a tantrum in a supermarket.
Sure.
And like a fool, to try and get her out of her tantrum, I said that she could wear my smartwatch. At which point she proceeded to have this huge tantrum on the floor, and then by the end, I mean, it was so scratched you could barely see it.
They just know how. We actually tested a bunch of these toys. And it was just crazy the types of tests we have to do on them. All the bodily fluids you have to try on it, it's just nasty. Fake sweat, fake pee. We have different acids that you can put on there. And this is what I think about all day. How do I torture a device?
Well, my old smartwatch died back in the cereal aisle of the supermarket. R.I.P. But this one has survived a 15-foot fall and Terry's scratch test. It's the Bruce Willis of smartwatches. So far, we've dropped the device onto wood, but now it's time for the toughest test so far.
We could do a concrete drop. You want concrete?
Yes.
Oh, that did not sound good.
There's one little crack.
There's one little crack. I'm sure the next one would do it.
Tiny hairline.
Astonishingly, the glass only has a small crack.
Come on, let's smash it again. Smash it again.
Sure. Oh, that sounded pretty good. It's a little disappointing that we can't break it that easily, huh? One more to put it out of its misery?
Obviously. Sod your 4-year-olds, I think I want to come and work for you.
Yeah, no problem.
OK, so that glass screen did do pretty well, but most normal glass couldn't have taken that pounding.